power of a second chance.
Wow, man, God bless you tonight, man. And this, I don't know, man. I'm really in shock, and I'm so thankful, man, that you can put some words onto a piece of paper and go in the studio and record it and get a bunch of people together that can act and roll cameras and put a message out that really represents hopefully what this song says. And that power of a second chance comes from the word grace, in my opinion. They even let rednecks like me get on TV, so I appreciate the Lord for that, man.
Welcome to Backroads Truth, a podcast where faith meets melody, hosted by ICMA Artist of the Year, singer-songwriter Justin Todd Herod.
Spent his life in prison, staring at those awful walls. She gave her life to the needle, falling behind that old 8-ball. He worked out in the oil field, lost his family to the speed. That guy right there used to be a preacher, long before pornography. But it ain't over yet. Don't you ever forget. Every game has a comeback. Every movie a part two. Every book has a sequel. Every old has a new. It's hard to understand. It's all part of God's plan. The power of a second chance. Don't underestimate that underdog. When grace takes a hold, you serve your time, you kick the habit, and life just goes on. 'Cause it ain't over till it's over, as long as you got breath to breathe. Amazing grace has forgiveness, as long as you can still believe. It ain't over yet. And don't you ever forget. Every game has a comeback. Every movie a part two. Every book has a sequel. Every old has a new. It's hard to understand. It's all part of God's plan. Yeah, the power of a second chance. Every game has a comeback. Every movie a part two. Every book has a sequel. Every old has a new. It's hard to understand. It's all part of God's plan. Yeah, the power of a second chance. The power of a second chance. The power
I want to let you know that that there is a second chance, and it's probably more or maybe different than what you're even thinking about right now. When I try to write songs, I always have one or maybe two intents in mind. One is to hopefully write a song that will represent, as this program represents, truth, and will have a really good story, but also will provoke thought. And many times when you're trying to write a song, what you want people to think about is your purpose, your intent. And so the intent of this song is to let people know that there is a second chance, but notice the title, The Power of a Second Chance. Let me ask you a question. People that are watching today, many of us, myself included, we've tried to quit things. We've tried to start over. We've tried to have these, maybe these wonderful triumphs over all these adversities or these things that have kind of made our life what to other people's view would be, man, they'll never make it. They'll never get another chance. But notice there's something about this song that says there's a power in this one particular second chance that I'm going to be sharing about. My life is the perfect story or canvas for this, because I was a guy that many years ago, I played in nightclubs and bars as a little kid. That's all I wanted to do is play music, play the guitar, and write songs. So I went down a road. Matter of fact, I'll tell you, there's some roads that we choose. Since we're backroads here, I went down some that took me into some pretty dark places through the nightclub business, the music business, et cetera, et cetera. And my whole community, I'm going to say this with an assumption here, my whole community probably many times thought, man, that guy will never, ever have a chance to really change his life, because some of those things that I did on those back roads in that time of my life were taking me into some dark places. And without being graphic, some of it was alcohol. Some of it was just generally being a person who had depression and things like that a lot. But I want to let you know that when this song was being written, it wasn't just isolated about me. It talks about people, male and female. It's not biased in any way. It's just about humanity. And it says he spent his life in prison staring at those old four walls. She gave her heart to the needle, falling behind that old 8-ball. He worked out in the oil field, lost his family to the speed. That guy right there used to be a preacher long before pornography. What does that tell you? It says no one's exempt from humanity and all these things. But the second verse goes on to talk about that power of a second chance. Before I go there, though, I want to capitalize on something real quick. My wife and I, as you'll get to meet later on down the line on this backroads journey, we go into prisons all over the United States of America. I have been going into prisons for years now. I've been in probably 500-600 prisons. And so I get a lot of correspondence. I get a lot of feedback. I get a lot of people writing me. And sometimes stories can really tell things better than maybe I could. So I'm going to read you a letter from a man who is incarcerated, kind of like that story says, spent his life in prison staring at those four walls. But the video that we shot, it actually made its way into the prison systems of the United States. But I was sent a letter, and this will be a way to hopefully kind of set the tempo for what I want to talk about in the remainder of our program. But I'm just going to read some segments. This guy goes on to say, but basically he said he was a man who has been in the prison system for 18 years, and plus in addition, 3 years in county jail. And he says, I started watching a particular podcast that my wife and I are on. It's a well-known podcast. Hopefully we can talk more about those guys later on, maybe even have them on here. My wife and I had an episode on there called Outlaw. I'm not an outlaw anymore. I'm a guy that loves people and loves the Lord. I saw a new podcast titled Outlaw about your music and your angel from heaven, your wife. He said, in 2012, I turned from a particular religion called Wicca to Christianity. And he said, in 2023, I went back to this particular religion, Wicca. Now, I'm not going to say yay or nay. I'm just going to say it's not what Backroads Truth believes in. I'm not saying that in an ugly way. This is a Christian, faith-based, conservative program. But this guy turned back to that after turning from that to Christianity. His reason, he said, I had turned away from that Christianity and turned back to my old non-Christian belief. He said, because of all the things I saw that were just, not authentic, not real, not a real change, not a real person who had experienced this second chance we're talking about. Let me move forward. He said, I had no idea as I watch this podcast. He said, because I deleted all of the things off there. He said, I was so through and so done with Christianity after all the things that I saw. He said, I deleted everything off my tablet. They have these tablets that they can use. And he said, I got rid of all that because I just didn't want anything else to do with it. But he said, I went back to my cell. And he said, I had no idea, but there was something blinking on my tablet. And he said, for some reason, I just kept seeing outlaw, blinking. Now, I don't know how come that one didn't get deleted. All I can tell you is sometimes miracles happen, okay? Just believe me, sometimes miracles happen. And he said, I saw this, and he said, even though I thought I deleted all of it off there, I saw it blinking, and he said, I turned it on, and at the end of it, your song named The Power of a Second Chance, I cannot stop the tears running down my face like a waterfall from heaven, tears pouring out of my heart and from my spirit. I came back to his ever-opened, loving, kind arms and rekindled our love for each other once again. So I hit my knees and I asked God back into my heart. Now, I hope that you got the main gist of this. Now, let me say, we want to give God all the glory. It's not because I wrote a great song. It's not because it was not about me. It's not about some of the guests that you'll see. But this song and what I just read to you represents what the whole intent of it is. This is a person who spent 21 years in prison, just like the song says. Half his life, probably 1/3 of his life. And by most people's standards, he's never going to get another chance. His life and the mistakes he's made have now brought him to a place where he's reaching for anything he can to find peace. So he turns to God. Wonderful thing to do. Unfortunately, maybe in his own world there, he saw things that didn't really look real to him. I want to stop just for a moment and say this power in this second chance from God, from God who loves you, by the way, it's real. It's powerful. And this letter demonstrates that power. There was something about seeing a person, I think, who's genuine, who's got the scars to back it up, who's got all of the miles and all the second chances, third chances, first chances, blowing them all. He sees a guy singing this song and these characters that you're going to get to see so wonderfully portraying these parts. And he says, that looks real to me. But most of all, he hears the message that he could have a second chance through what? Through not people. Listen, he found he could have a second chance not through the people that he saw, although it's good to have good people in our life. He found he could have a second chance not through just trying to self-help himself. He found that he could have a second chance through something that has power. And what is it? I'll give you a verse real quick. Romans 1:16. Here it is. I'm not ashamed of the gospel because it's the power of God unto salvation. It's the power of God unto salvation to all who believe. The power's there. The power's in what the message says. And I'll tell you right quick, even a person who's in prison, from a person who used to be a wild rebel redneck, struggling with drinking and fighting and acting a fool, messing up all the time, to that person in that particular song that struggled with an addiction, gave her heart to the needle, to this character who you'll meet here in a moment or soon, that played this pastor who fell from grace, lost his wife, lost his church. It's fictional, yes, but it represents people who made massive mistakes along the way in humanity, and they discovered this power not by other people, so to speak, not by trying to improve themselves, not by going on the latest fad trend of self-help, but on understanding that God loves them, and because of God's grace, He's given them now a second chance, but not just a second chance for life, a second chance for eternity, for something greater than life. A second chance for something greater than just this time that you've spent 21 years in prison, or this time that I fumbled around for 15, 20 years trying to find my way till I finally came out of a nightclub one night, stumbled out of my car, barely could walk, let alone drive, and got on my knees and said, Lord, could you please help me? I've got a brand new son. I've got a family now, and I can't spend the rest of my life trying to be a father or a husband, playing in clubs 4 nights a week and barely can drive home. And I found that power not in, just, hey, pull up your bootstraps or just, come on, make up your mind. No, I found that power in humbling myself and coming to something greater than myself. That's what I want to share with you today. Notice in the second verse it says, don't underestimate that underdog. when grace takes a hold. Maybe you're the underdog today. Obviously, if you're relating to this story and that guy's story, definitely an underdog, locked up. Maybe you're struggling with an addiction. Maybe you're struggling with something that says, I've lost my family to something. And I feel, Justin, I feel like an underdog today. Well, listen, you're in good company on Backroads Truth because we've all been there. I know I have. But I can tell you this, as that song progresses, it says that when grace takes a hold, that we get this second chance. It goes on to say, don't underestimate it. Because you know what? When we finally have that ability to understand His amazing grace, it says, as long as you still got breath to breathe, if you're alive today, you have the opportunity to receive the greatest second chance that's ever been offered to you. And that is through putting your faith in Jesus Christ, putting your faith in one who loved you enough to pay the price that all of your mistakes, even though they've cost us something, they can be forgiven. And you can have a second chance like no other. Listen, this second chance is not temporary. It's for all eternity too. It gives you hope. It gives you hope that no matter what anybody has said about you, here's what God says about you. God says He loves you. God loves you today. I love you today. The producers of this program love you today. And we love you to the point that I would come out here and talk about a song that I wrote that, yes, in some ways is about me. It's a fictional song, but in some ways it's about me because I experienced that second chance almost 30 years ago. Here's what I did. I simply got down on the floor on my knees. You don't even have to do that. But from my heart, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I needed something to change. And you know what? The only thing I knew is what I'd heard from people telling me, like I'm telling you today, that if I would turn to God with my whole heart, humble myself and say, Lord, I need you. I need a second chance that's going to work this time. And I'll promise you, you can argue with science, you can argue with history, you can argue with politics, you can even argue with religion, but you can't argue with a testimony. I'm still out here doing what I'm doing, going up down the back roads, bringing truth about this wonderful thing called grace. But I want to talk about your story right now. Your story starts now. It starts with coming to that place where you can say, I need that second chance. Here's how you do it. Just say, Lord, I need you. I believe that you died on a cross. And I believe that you rose from the dead. I believe you love me. And today I surrender my life to you. Can you give me that second chance? And I promise you, He will. God loves you. I love you. And I'm so thankful today that as we've kind of took this crossroads, turns, dives, corners, hills, gullies, we stayed right there in the middle of the road for one thing. This power of the grace of Jesus Christ in my life and your life. Let me just tell you, thank you for jumping in the shotgun seat and going down these back roads with OJTH. I appreciate it so much. And we'll see you next time on Backroads Truth. Bye-bye.